I really do believe that this is proof that most of our society is stuck in what's called a hypo-aroused state. This is episode 1931 with Mike Glover. This is a super interesting clip if you're into like the mind and how people work. Mike Glover breaks down something called hypoarousal, but I just want to actually go over it with you before we actually start the clip so you know exactly what he is talking about. Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. Hit that subscribe button for the best insights. Let's get into it. So here it says, what is hypoarousal? Just for people who don't actually know, hypoarousal is our freeze response and is typified by shutting down when faced with significant stress, adversity, or trauma. With hypoarousal, your level of arousal is too low and you fall below the window of tolerance. You can experience feelings of paralysis or a desire to withdraw. Psychologically, your breathing can become shallow and your blood pressure may become lower. It may also impact your sleep and eating habits. When you're in a state of hypoarousal, you may feel emotionally numb, lack motivation, socially withdraw, and feel a sense of disconnection from your body and feelings. This type of emotional dysregulation or the inability to effectively manage your emotional response can be triggered by overwhelming stress, traumatic reminders or events, a perceived threat, or other life adversities. Hate reading in public. Sometimes hypoarousal can be the result of a prolonged state of hyperarousal. Under the constant duress of hyperarousal, we eventually shut down as a response to the pain. When we're hypoaroused, our family and friends may believe that we're depressed, and I'm pretty sure will believe that we're depressed as well, or that we're disengaged and don't care much in our lives. Sorry, guys. By learning to identify the symptoms of hypoarousal, we can begin to practice strategies that allow us to better regulate our emotions, strengthening our window of tolerance, and adopt healthier means of coping when faced with extreme stress or adversity. Now, here's the symptoms. The symptoms are pretty, I've seen this in a lot of people in my life, like a lot. Feelings of numbness or emptiness, depression, brain fog, exhaustion and fatigue, difficulty making decisions, feelings of hopelessness, big one, inability to focus or concentrate, huge, depersonalization or disassociation, dizziness, hypotension, not sure what that is, headaches and nausea, shallow breathing, or low respiration rate. I just wanted to bring that up just so you understand completely what we're talking about or what Mike is talking about in this clip. It's really, really interesting. And learning about this, it's actually made me see that there is a lot of people that I know and even possibly that are in this state right now. I think it's way more than you think. I think it's most of society, honestly. But let's get into it.
Multiply that times 100 if you're actually being attacked by that animal. Multiply that times 100 if a person is trying to get you. And you're not accustomed to being able to respond and deal with stress. And that's most people.
Yeah, you'll find this fascinating. This is, you ever heard of the term hypoarousal?
Yes.
So I've heard you talk about it a couple times. The problem with this idea of being hypo-aroused, playing possum, the feign response, is it's not widely studied. There's a woman named Amanda Ripley. Have you ever interviewed Amanda Ripley?
No.
She wrote the book Unthinkable, and it's a real good book on why people live, why people die. I'm fascinated by that shit and survival. She talks about the Virginia Tech shooting. Horrible circumstance that took place at Virginia Tech where shooter goes into the school, kills 32 people, and then kills himself. He goes classroom to classroom, shooting students, like one at a time, at will, at random, shooting them in the head. Like 93% or more of the people he shot in the head. So he's just walking one by one. And this is on me too. This is something fucked up I used to do. I used to teach this course, warrior mindset. You know, this idea about, oh, we got to have a warrior fucking mindset. And when I taught it, I used to use Virginia Tech as an example. And I would say, when does it become real for you to get off your ass and fight for your life? Is it when the 10th student closest to the door gets popped in the fucking head by a semi-automatic pistol? Or is it the second person, the third person? Or maybe your friend, because friends sit together in classrooms. Was it your friend? Was it your friend that woke you up so you could fight for your life? Or was it when the Glock was put against the back of your head and then you went, oh, I need to fight, and then you got popped in it, and it's too late. You're fucking dead. Why did nobody fight? And that's because I didn't know better. I was ignorant to the science. There is a response, as noted by Amanda Ripley and in different experiments, of the chicken. You take the chicken and you scare the shit out of it. You put its head on a table like you're going to lob it off, and you pet it. It will freeze in paralysis, right? Hypoarousal, not to be confused with hyperarousal, is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, and it will shut your shit down. And what happened in Virginia Tech is there was a student, and one of the students in the classroom of 13 pretended to be dead. He said when the shooter came in, he heard gunshots, and he put himself in a situation physically where he looked like he was shot. And as the shooter bypassed him one at a time, he heard and was conscious to things, but he was frozen in place. He had paralysis. He said at one point he thought he was shot because he went to move and his legs didn't work. And he was aware, but he was frozen. The shooter left, reloaded, came back, bypassed him again, and continued to shoot. Everybody in that classroom got shot. 9 of the 13 got killed. And he survived. And when he talks about it in reflection in the book Unthinkable, he says, when I went to move, my legs wouldn't work. And I thought I was shot. And I said to myself, this isn't so bad. And he came to terms with everything. There was no pain. There was no suffering. That's because he was hypoaroused. And sexual trauma victims, by the way, refer to this. They say, I couldn't fight and I feel guilty because I should have fought. There's a statistic that was done on sexual assault victims where 10% claimed that they were in paralysis. What's unique about that situation is 10% is more than the percentage of people who fought. So a sympathetic response versus a parasympathetic response, which means in us, we have a mechanism to quit, to check the fuck out.
What do you think that's for?
They studied it, and they think, this is all speculation, like the possum effect, they think it is for the predator to assume the prey is tainted. Bacteria, virus, not good to eat. And it wouldn't be beneficial for a predator to eat prey that's fucked up, right?
Really?
Because if you're tainted and it eats you, it could mean the difference between survival for itself and its family, the cubs, the wolf pack.
But does it have to have some natural selection aspect to it, or could it just be just overwhelming stimuli and the inability to handle it, so everything just shuts down?
Well, it's both, because the unique thing about human beings is we have, we're parallel primates, right? We go through a situation, like let's say we're walking down a trail and I see a snake. If I see a snake on the ground, I jump back because oh shit, it's a snake. Well, why did I jump back? Learned behavior. Maybe it was genetically imprinted. Maybe my dad taught me. Maybe I just didn't want to die and my central nervous system activated. The difference is animals do that, except when animals do it, they jump and they navigate it, right? It's very primal for them. When we do it, we jump back and then we stare at the fucking snake and we go, dude, I don't want to fucking die. I got kids at home. I don't want to fucking die. If I die, tell my wife I love them. Like, dude, that's a gardener snake. You're good. You're not going to die. Like, oh, okay, cool, right? And you move on. Well, we have this fear of impending doom, and we have this emotional mechanism where we try to create the narrative and contemplation and understanding these things.
Because we can figure out like what could go wrong.
We could figure out the courses of action that could lead to the bad outcome or the good outcome. So here's what I think is unique in teaching resilience. So in combat, it's funny because Amanda Ripley talks about this and asking people in law enforcement and military, have they experienced this? Dude, I've experienced this so many damn times. I have one time I was in a gunfight in Iraq, and I was in a ditch. There was a group of Navy SEALs up in a compound providing security. My buddy Kevin Owens, who works for me now, he's an accomplished sniper in Green Beret. He was on twin 240 machine guns, like in a vehicle. I was in this ditch, and we were looking for improvised explosive devices, like caches, whatever's going to be in a ditch, bad guys. And I have night vision and an infrared laser. And I'm shining it in this ditch. And the Iraqi, who's the tier 1 Iraqi counterterrorism force guy, super squared away guys, he shines his white light in the ditch. And when he does that, a PKM machine gun opens up on my position. So 7.62 by 54 rimmed, ga, 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 and it's firing at us, and tracers go over our heads. I fall on my ass, lift my gun, and start shooting at the point of origin, the poo site. So I'm shooting at the position, and I look down, and he's in the fetal position. And I'm like, dude, get the fuck up. And I hit him. And I know this dude. I've trained with this dude. And he's in the fetal, and he's frozen in place. I'm like, get the fuck up, get up. And he won't move. So I grab him and drag him 20 yards while the SEALs in the compound wall are reacting to contact, and I drag him across this field and get him into the compound wall, and I'm like shaking him. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he wakes up. And one of the problems in the mechanism of being hypoaroused is opiates are pushed into your system to disassociate the trauma. Some even speculate to disassociate the transition from life to death to make it easier, which is fascinating. And I'm like, dude, get your shit together. Like, get up. He gets up. We talk about it post-op back at the base. He doesn't even realize what happened. He's like, dude, he's like, what happened? I'm like, dude, you completely were in a fetal, like almost crying. I thought you were paralyzed. He goes, I don't remember, Mike. I don't know what happened. I'm like, oh shit.
So his mind just shut down.
His shit shut down. And
wow.
here's where what I figured out. There are triggers in trauma as part of this resilience concept that we don't really think about. This happened to me in Afghanistan in a different rotation. I'm trained as a Green.
Man, I almost let that run a little long because this guy is so captivating when he's talking about these past stories. But I wanted to get to the part where his partner, the person he was working with, was in the fetal position. Just that whole thing, just about hypoarousal, because I've never heard hypoarousal in my life. I've never heard of it. Like reading that description that I read to you guys, that was my first time ever reading something like that. And looking at the symptoms, hearing what he's talking about, I really do think there's a lot of people who aren't in the fetal position and can't move physically, but are locked away like that, like mentally, psychologically. I really do believe that, which is why if I even go back, I won't go back for you guys, but like feelings of numbness, emptiness, depression, brain fog, exhaustion, fatigue, difficulty making decisions, feelings of hopelessness, like a lot of what we have to live through today as people, just for somebody who's just stuck in a job that they don't want to be stuck in. I think that type of experience can mentally put you in a state of hypoarousal. I really do. Like, I'm going to look into this more, but I really do think it can put you in that state where you're just frozen. You don't want to really move. And then when he brought up, it happens like opioid, like it's happening to make the transition to death easier. Like in my mind, it's like, how many times have you heard of that? Like, there's that like saying, I think it's even a meme. I've seen it on the internet where people are like, you have kids, or like you work through school and then you go to college and then you have kids and then you do this and then you retire and then you die. It's like the whole thing, that whole, being forced into school and then all the way up until like having kids, grandkids, retiring, like all of that stuff, I think There are so many things within that, so many decisions that you're confronted with, so much dramatic stress that's put upon you, from college students, university students, to having kids, to the stress that's within that, to the stress that's within watching them grow up and making sure that you're able to pay for everything they need, and just trying to stay above water every single day, and just, you know, like them getting older, and now they have school that you have to pay for, and it's like $100,000 now, and you don't have any of it, and now you're stressed out that they have to go into debt to get loans, and you're just going through all this stuff, and that whole time you're worried about how much you get to leave for them before you die. Then you retire, and then all of a sudden it's like years later, you know, some people literally retire and then like die in the next 2 years. Like, I think all of that stuff is enough to put you in this state that he's talking about. I really do. And I'm going to look into it more, but it's really something to think about. Like, oh, and that website that I'm on, it's called Hope and Healing Counseling. hopehealingcounseling.com. You should check it out. It's pretty cool. If you just type that into Google and just type hypoarousal, I'm sure the page will come up, and there'll be a link in the description as well. But yeah, hypoarousal, like really look into that. Symptoms, again, feelings of numbness and emptiness. Like a lot of the people that I deal with in my coaching practice have at least 4 of these symptoms when I meet them. At least. And the thing that I always notice that pulls them out of these symptoms, not saying that they're in it, but it does seem like it. But the thing that tends to pull them out of these symptoms is action and purpose, and a path towards the purpose. As Jordan Peterson put it, having an aim in life. Having an aim in life and shooting at it. And having that fun game of like knowing that this is where I want to be, and I have the utensils and I have the power to take the steps to get there. I notice that usually takes people out of these type of symptoms. So yeah, definitely check it out. Like whether it's you or someone you know, it's just good to know that, at least for me, that this state exists. Because once I know that it exists, I know I can navigate around it. And also, just real quick, let me just go back real quick. It says here, how do you get yourself out of hypoarousal, right? To manage hypoarousal, you know, mindfulness practices, you know, CBT conventions are useful for managing hypoarousal. When you're experiencing hypoarousal, people can help you shift to a more alert state, present state of mind, and reconnect with your body and your feelings. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. But look, some of the strategies managing hypoarousal include, and now when I see this, I think of young men, because I know a lot of young men who are addicted to porn and what you do when you watch porn. Can I even say porn? You're supposed to say like corn or something? I don't know. Sorry, YouTube. But look at this. Paced breathing, engaging your senses, physical movement, right? And then creative arts. Like creative arts could be like the thing that you're watching. Physical movement could be the thing that you know I'm talking about. Engaging your senses is what happens when you get into that thing, and paced breath is what happens when you start doing it. I know it's a little weird and maybe even disgusting to some people, but maybe there's a link there. Maybe there's a lot of young men who are in this state and they are doing stuff like that in order to get out of it. But it's only like a Band-Aid on a much bigger problem. I don't know. But this has been really interesting. I'm going to look into this more. Link in the description. Absolutely amazing podcast. Mike Glover is so fascinating, so smart. Yeah, check it out. I'm out.